Hi there, welcome to video number 6. This one will be a demo flight, so we can look at how the Stream Deck, Axis Nose and the X-Touch Mini all work together to emulate the C172 steam gauge version. So today's flight I've planned is southeast of England, and that will take us from Southend Airport, and we'll fly on the 44-degree radial into the VOR at Clacton, and then we'll fly across to London Stansted, and hopefully we'll pick up a procedure here from ATIS so we can do a GPS approach and then an ILS landing here at London Stansted. So that's the plan that we've got, and I've created a nav log so that we can enter our details into the autopilot and into GPS. Okay, so let's go and have a look and see what's going on. So I'm going to fly with my head tracker on today. I'll freeze it at various points when I want to look at an instrument and not have it wobbling about too much, so I hope you'll bear with it, but there's been lots of discussion on the forum about using the head tracker, so I'll put that on as well. So let's get started. So the first item is we need to put on the parking brake and open the fuel shutoff, and we'll stick the beacon light on and check that we've got mixture and throttle control. We have. I'll have a quick fuel pump and let's kick the magnetos. We've got some revs, so we can have the alternator on and the avionics. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll put up in the top here a camera view of my actual X-Touch Mini and a software view over here of the Stream Deck, so you can see what I'm seeing, but you won't be able to see my finger pressing buttons because I've only got one webcam working today, so the webcam is actually on here, so you can see what I'm pressing. Okay, let's go back to our flight plan, and this is what we're going to enter into here. So if I just pause my head tracker for a moment, I need to enter our destination, our departure destination and the waypoint on the way. So we will be entering our flight plan. So if I press the flight plan button, and let's bring up the cursor by pressing this button here, and just using the right hand knob I can enter our departure, which is Echo Golf. So using this second knob, we move across one, back to the right hand knob, Echo Golf, Mike Charlie, and press enter, and that's Southend entered into our flight plan. And now I use this one here, the second one across, to jog down, and we'll put in Clacton. C L N, and we press enter, and it tells us there are duplicates. We want the VOR in England, so that's selected, so that's in, and then the last one is to put in our destination, Echo Golf Sierra Sierra. So that's it, that's our flight plan done. So we can come out from the cursor by pressing this button here, turn the cursor off, And if I go back to the map using a long press on the clear, we're out. Okay, we're going to fly the VOR actually using the radio navigation, the VLOC, into Clacton. So we need to put in our frequency for that. So we swap over using this button here. And you see now that we're using the VLOC and it's 114.55. And we'll make that the active. And what I want to do next is to put in the frequency for the ILS approach at Stansted. So I need to look that up. And the way I do that is turn this knob here once, and we're now going to put in the waypoint information. So we bring up the cursor and we tune in Echo Golf Sierra Sierra. And press enter. Now I can jog across the various waypoint information pages, and I find that the runway is both 22 and 04 are both 110.5. By chance that's there already, so we can leave that. So that means we can make that active as we go along, and I'm going to put it into the second VLOC as well, so that it'll be picked up by both VORs. So I've switched over here to number 2, and we'll put in 110.5 and make that active in 10.5. Let's bring that back. Or 0.5 active here, and we need to make that 114.155 active up here again. Okay, so that's where we're heading, and that's what we'll pick up later. We want to go out on about 44-45. That's the VOR that we want to pick up there. So we now know where we're going, direction we're going. What we really need to do now is to find out we want to find out the pressure and eventually the altitude that we're going to be flying at. So let's get this prepared here. So get that switched on ready, so that when they give us clearance we can put in our squawk code and we can put in the altitude, and we need to check with the ATIS and get the heading and which is the active runway. So let's tune to the ATIS. I usually keep this on a second monitor, so I'll bring it up for the moment so you can see where I'm tuning, but I'll put it back again in a minute. So we're tuning here to 136.055.
Southend Airport information, Charlie 1300 Zulu. Wind 269er at 8. Visibility 9er. Sky condition 1,700 feet scattered, 4,700 feet scattered, 13,700 feet scattered. Temperature 15. Dew point 13. Altimeter 29.9er2. ILS runway 23 in use. Landing and departing runway 23. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact. You have
Okay, so that was standard pressure, so that actually was 29.92, so that's about right. And we really should check on here what the barometer setting is. So if I do a long click on that, 29.92, that's close enough, so we're okay, we're set with the pressure correctly. And it was runway 23, so what I do is I usually set up the heading for that, so it reminds me which way to face on the runway, so I don't get the wrong runway. It also allows me to fly the runway heading later, so runway 23, that's set, ready for that. Okay, so now I'm going to tune to Southend ground, and we'll get our clearance, which will give us our squawk code and the altitude that we're going to fly at. Okay, so let's just clear this. So we're back to the map, and let's go and tune to Southend ground, which is 127.730. 127.730. And we're going to request our IFR clearance, so it will read in our flight plan and give us the details we need.
Southend Tower Cessna Golf Bravo Mike IFR to Stansted, ready to copy.
Cessna Golf Bravo Mike is cleared to Stansted Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 23 climb and maintain 12,000 feet. Departure frequency is 118 decimal for 75 squawk 661 tree.
There's my squawk code in. Let's just acknowledge that.
Cessna Golf Bravo Mike cleared to Stansted Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 23 climb and maintain 12,000 feet. Departure on 118 decimal 475 squawk 661 tree.
Well,
Mike, read back correct. Contact ground on 127 decimal 7 tree. Good day.
12,000 feet sounds quite ambitious for a Cessna, but we'll give it a go and see if we can comply. So let's also set up the departure frequency as a standby. So the departure frequency was 118. 0.475, 118. 0.475, and that's set up then as the next one in the sequence. So I think we're getting pretty ready to go. We've got pressure set, target altimeter set, we're squawking correctly. Let's just move across. So we've got the altitude displaying. We know which direction we're going to be flying off in. We know where we're going after that. Let's. I was just fiddling with the OBS. Let's change that to. Sorry, OBS. So we're going at 0.45. Heading set for 23. That's it. Okay, so we know where we're going, we know what we're doing. So let's get permission to taxi.
Southend ground Cessna Golf Bravo Mike with Charlie ready to taxi IFR.
Cessna Golf Bravo Mike taxi to and hold short of runway 23 via taxiway Charlie Alpha. Contact tower on 127.7 tree when ready.
Okay, so I'll taxi, but I'll probably edit this bit out so that you don't have to watch me taxiing on the road, and I'll see you when we are actually waiting to join the runway. Okay, so we're now at the hold point for runway 23. So looking at this, we're going to go on and turn left, and that will pick us up onto 23. So let's get permission for takeoff.
Southend Tower Cessna Golf Bravo, Mike, ready for IFR departure, runway 23.
Cessna Golf Bravo, Mike, altimeter 29er.9er, 2 winds 269er at 8. Cleared for takeoff, runway 23.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 23, Cessna Golf Bravo, Mike.
Okay, so we're entering the runway, so we'll put the strobe on, landing light on, taxi light off, nav lights are on, so we should be pretty visible, and parking brake off, and away we go. So the idea is that we'll manually fly the runway heading for a bit. When we run out of usable runway, we'll flick the autopilot into heading mode. And then we'll put the autopilot into vertical speed mode and achieve our destination or desired altitude. Okay, so full power, full mixture. Airspeed's alive. We'll wait for 60 knots. Best climb for this aircraft is about 72, 74 knots. So we'll just lift off the ground and we'll fly the runway heading. And we should be running out of all usable runway about now. So if we flick the autopilot in to heading mode, that will hold the heading for us. And I'm going to manually work the pitch for a bit. And let's go for vertical speed up. So I'll try about 800 feet per minute.
Cessna Mike, contact London Center on 118.475. Good day.
118.475 Cessna, Mike. London Center Cessna Golf Bravo, Mike, is passing 700 feet, climbing 12,000 feet.
Cessna Golf Bravo, Mike, London Center altimeter 29er.9er, 2 continue to Charlie Lima November as planned.
Okay, so that means that we can now switch it over into nav mode. So we'll press here and that will pick up the V-lock and should turn us now onto the VOR, onto that heading, which is about 44 degrees. So let's see what's going on here. Actually, it looks like I could do some lights on. Let's turn some lights on. That's better. So this should stabilize onto about 44 degrees in a minute. Interesting. Let's have a look at our flight plan. Yep, that's that. Okay, so we haven't got a flight level control on this flight level change on this particular autopilot, that we have to balance it ourselves, that we looking at the best airspeed for climb, and we need to climb and We're looking for 74 knots, so we've actually got a fair bit of climb that we can do here. Watching that airspeed settle down. It should come down because we're pulling up harder now. We're going up at about 1,000 feet per minute, and we can bring that airspeed down a bit and get a bit of climb rate out of it. But we need to keep an eye on that, particularly as we go and get higher. We will need to change the mixture, but probably 1,000 feet per minute is a bit ambitious for higher altitudes. So I'm going to reduce the rate of climb now, about 700 feet per minute. Hopefully that will stabilise at about 74 knots. And we've now gone through 3,000 feet, so I'm going to check my mixture now. So still on full throttle, but I'm going to watch the exhaust gas temperature as I bring the mixture back. And you can see the exhaust gas temperature starting to pick up, so that's slightly more efficient. Don't go too far with it because you will run out of power. But that looks a good peak to me, 860 degrees of exhaust gas temperature, still climbing in fact. So the fuel flow coming down a little bit. We're still well within our capabilities. We're climbing at what, 700 feet per minute. We could possibly push that a little bit higher. Let's try 800 and see what effect that has on our airspeed. That will probably drop a bit now. So we need to keep an eye on that, particularly as we get higher. That we'll have to reduce our rate of climb. So we are 20 miles now from the Clacton VOR, climbing nicely, and here's the views outside the window. There's the North Sea, all the various rivers, and that's a very flat area of ground here. Lots of rivers leading out into the estuaries, all sort of part of the Thames estuary area. It's an interesting area to fly in because the flatland here meant, and its proximity to the coast, meant there were lots of airfields built during the Second World War. So there's loads of places to explore, loads of bomber length landing, fighter pilots, shorter takeoff airfields, and most of them are still active today, so it's really quite interesting to fly here and try landing at different locations. Right, we need to watch our airspeed. It's beginning to drop, so we need to stop this climb, and we need to bring that down to 500, 600 feet per minute, something like that. So that's what we need to do, balance that the whole time, the climb against the airspeed, and make sure that we're optimizing that. Heading for 12,000 feet. Well, let's see where we get to. Not quite sure we're going to get all the way. What I do normally is I retrim every 3,000 feet. So when we get to 6,000, we'll retrim the mixture again and see how we're doing. So we're coming towards 6,000 feet, so let's reduce the mixture a bit and see if we get any better peak. And that seems to be about peak, so we'll go slightly richer of that, and that will give us enough more power. Still climbing quite healthily actually, so 6,600 feet per minute, 500 feet per minute, and we're passing 6,000 feet, so quite happy with that. Let's go back and look at our flight plan, and we'll prepare for the next step. So we were intending to go in to Clacton on the 44 radial and come out on the 274 direction. So I'm going to put that in as a heading so that we can switch to heading mode here, because around about here we normally get given the procedures and we've got to make some changes to our settings for the GPS. So I'm now going to change that heading to about 274 so that we can go into heading mode and exit using the heading bug. So let's bring this around to 274-ish, somewhere around there, and we'll pick up when we get to Clacton and see how we're going. Right, so airspeed's still okay, we haven't bled too much speed off, still climbing about 500 feet, 600 feet per minute, approaching 7,000, so yeah, we're on the way to the 12,000. Not sure we're going to achieve it, but we'll give it a go. So there's some more of the water around the Southend area here. And out this way is off to sea. There's the North Sea going off Holland, that sort of direction. And we've got 13 miles to run now to Clacton, so I might come and edit some of this out, so because it's just a bit of a long drag along this bit here, and pick up again when we get a bit nearer to Clacton. Okay, so we're now about 5 miles off from the Clacton VOR. I had to retrim the mixture a little bit because we're approaching 10,000 feet, and we've reduced our rate of climb to about 400 feet per minute, but we're still climbing, so we're reaching the 10,000. And we're sort of waiting for an air traffic control call now to give us the procedures in. Around here we normally get that kind of information, or if not, we will fly onto the VOR in about 4.3 miles, and we'll switch over to heading mode on the autopilot. And we'll fly out on a heading and see what happens. Any jitters you can see are actually being caused by my head tracker at the moment. The lighting's changed in the room, the sun's come out behind me, and it's picking up a few strange little anomalies like that. When I turn my head to the left, there's something happened with the lighting. Works fine to the right, it's just to the left it's got a little jitter at the moment. Okay, well air speed is still up above 80, so we're still climbing, we're still able to climb. We may make the 12,000 before we get the call. And here we are, we're coming in. 2.5 miles to go to the VOR. The GPS track actually shows a bend before we get to the actual VOR itself, but we'll take it all the way to the VOR. And then we'll switch it over to heading mode.
Cessna Mike, your tree 3 miles east. Maintain present heading and altitude. Expect ILS runway 22 approach via Abbott transition. Clear to Abbott.
Well, there's the call.
Mike descend and maintain 4,000 feet.
Okay, so
Descend and maintain 4,000 feet. Expect ILS runway 22 approach via Abbott transition. Clear to Abbott Cessna Mike.
So we're going to descend and maintain 4,000 feet. So we'll put that into vertical speed down. So we'll come out of alt hold. Vertical speed, and we'll do about 700 feet per minute down, which means we'll take the throttle off, so we'll overspeed as we go down. We'll change it to heading mode, and now we're going to put our procedure in. The procedure was expecting an ILS runway 22 approach, So we'll press the procedure button and select our approach.
Cessna Mike, please expedite your descent 4,000 feet.
And it was the ILS 22 approach. Enter that. And we'll load it but not activate it. It'll automatically activate. And then the next thing we want to do is to go direct so there's the direct button here, and we're going to go to Abbott. Direct to Abbott, enter and activate that. And then the last part is we need to then put it over into nav mode, but change the CDI so it doesn't read VLOC but it reads GPS. So that should now be taking us directly to Abbott. And again, if we go and look at our flight plan now, we're in the approach, which goes direct to Abbott and then to various waypoints, and then finally ends up at runway 22. So that's what we're going to follow in. So we're no longer using 114.55, so we might as well switch over and make Stansted's ILS are active, and I've got active on both of them here, and you should pick that up pretty soon. 110.5. And hopefully we'll see those become active in a bit. Okay, so we're going on the GPS, and you can see here we're going to Abbott, and if I change the range, you can see there's Abbott appearing here, and that's the pathway we're going to take in. So let's range back out again for a bit. Okay, and what's happening out of the window? Let's have a look. Let's change my settings here on my let's reset that. Oh, that helps me turn left, that's better. Yeah, the sun's come round into a side window of my room, and the sunlight was blocking part of the sensor. Okay, so we are now bang on track going towards Abbott. 15 miles to Abbott, and we are descending at 600, and we're on our way down. We could probably go down a bit faster now, so let's change that vertical speed. Now we're not busy with the autopilot, we can go down at 900 feet per minute. And throttle back a bit. So we're just going to wait now till we capture the 4,000 feet and capture that altitude. Okay, we're about 500 feet above our target altitude now of 4,000 feet, so we should see that capture that fairly soon. You can see that it's now locked on to the EGSS instrument approach, ILS 22.
Mike contact Stansted approach on 120.625. Good day.
And there's our handoff.
Going to 120.625 Cessna, Mike.
120.625.
Stansted, approach Cessna Golf, Bravo, Mike, 4,100 feet.
Cessna Golf Bravo, Mike, Stansted, approach altimeter 29.902, continue to Abbott as planned.
Okay, so we're about 6 miles from Abbott now. We've now reached our target altitude, so we need to push the throttle up a little bit. Get some speed going. And let's look at the range here. So you can see the procedure in white appearing now. That's what we're going to fly. So up to Abbott and then through these various waypoints and straight into the runway. So that's where we are. Let's have a look at our mixture. The exhaust gas temperature is still not stabilised because I've pushed some extra throttle in. So we'll wait for that to stabilise and then we can have another look at the mixture. But the fuel flow is sort of at the top of the green over here, so that's good. And we've now got a ground speed of 115 knots and approaching Abbott. Alright, let's have a look at this mixture. Yeah, let's make it a bit richer. That's pushing the exhaust gas temperature up, so that's making it a little bit more fuel efficient. Somewhere around there, about 50% mixture seems to be about right for peak. And we're now through Abbott and turning left slightly to the next waypoint. So going from user to user, 6.5 miles to go. And you can see the bottom VOR here now has picked up the actual glide slope. We're under the glide slope. But I'm not going to put it into approach mode until we are actually contacted tower, and then we'll put it into approach mode. And that should work well for us. So as I said, there's plenty of airfields around here. There's I'm not quite sure which one that is. If I had my map out, I'll be able to identify these. But I'm guessing that's EGZD. So we could look that up and find which one that is. Okay, we've just lost the glide slope. We're under it, but ATC haven't told us to descend, so we're looking here.
Mike, descend and maintain 2,500 feet.
There we go, there's our descent.
Descend and maintain 2,500 feet, Cessna, Mike.
We'll do 1,000 feet per minute drop and we'll throttle back so we don't overspeed on our descent. We have now reached the next waypoint, so we're beginning our turn in now. we're going to get pretty established.
Cessna Mike, you are 10 miles northeast of Stansted. Contact tower on 123.805 when inbound on the approach.
Tower on 123.805 Cessna, Mike.
123.805, and we are on the approach, so we can get to talk to them straight away.
Tower Cessna Golf Bravo, Mike 9 miles northeast inbound ILS runway 22 approach.
So I'm going to drop it into approach mode now.
Cessna Golf Bravo, Mike tower. Altimeter 29.9er, 2 wind 270 at 8. Cleared ILS runway 22 approach.
Cleared ILS runway 22 approach Cessna, Mike.
So we can see the runway ahead, we're all lined up quite nicely on it. We'll start to pull the speed back a bit. And it looks like we're quite stabilised in terms of glide slope and localizer. What I'll do is I'll fly it down to about 1,000 feet. And then we'll take it manually from there. So let's drop 1 notch of flaps. And we'll watch the airspeed. We'll try and keep the airspeed around 80 as we come in. Keeps it stable, particularly in these gusty winds we've got going today. And the autopilot is a little bit flicky. It's not the smoothest autopilot in the world.
Cessna, Mike.
Okay, we'll put another notch of flaps in, a bit more throttle. We'll just try and stabilise that now, and then we'll take the autopilot off at about 1,000 feet and hand fly us down. Sounds easy. I'll probably mess it up because you're watching. Okay, autopilot going out now. It's all down to me. And we'll have the last notch of flaps while we're here. Yep. And there's the drift starting to happen already. So let's get ourselves back online.
Mike, turn next taxiway.
Well, we're down Not the best landing I've ever done, but we've still got wheels, we're still rolling. Well, I'll take this taxiway here.
Cessna Mike contact ground on 121.73.
Going to 121.73 Cessna, Mike. Stansted ground, Cessna Golf Bravo, Mike, taxi to parking.
Cessna Golf Bravo, Mike, taxi to general aviation parking using taxiway November Romeo November Juliet.
Taxiing to general aviation parking using taxiway November Romeo November Juliet Cessna, Mike.
Okay, I probably won't show you me taxiing to the parking because you know what that looks like, but just to say I've switched my lights now, so I've just got nav and taxi and beacon on, strobes off because I'm off the runway, and I'll see you in the next video. Not quite sure where we're going next, but that was the demonstration flight to show that all the procedures work and all the buttons work, and how to enter procedures and how to enter direct to a location. Also, possibly not how to make a landing, but there you are. Luckily it's a long wide runway and we got away with it. Okay, see you in the next video.